Hello everyone, my dear friends. Today I want to take you to another place, behind a curtain of neon lights and perfect streets, to a part of Japan that no one talks about. When you think of Japan, perhaps you imagine cherry blossoms, high-speed trains, or peaceful shrines. I thought so too, until I stayed long enough to see what was behind it. And what I found shocked me. Japan is one of the most advanced countries in the world, a symbol of discipline, order, and progress. Tokyo looks like the future. People are polite, everything works, it's incredibly safe. But here's the thing no one tells you. It's also incredibly lonely. Let's start with something most visitors never see, the disappearing towns. Across rural Japan, entire communities are vanishing. I visited a village in Yamaguchi where there were more houses abandoned than occupied. Ghost towns. The elderly residents are either passing away or moving into care homes. Young people? They've all left. Why? Because there are no jobs, no schools, no future. Japan's population is shrinking faster than almost any other country. More diapers are sold for adults than for babies. Think about that. And with that comes a deeply sad reality. Entire schools shut down, train lines stop running, hospitals close. I saw a classroom that used to have 30 children. Now, 2. The teacher told me it feels like watching a slow death. Now let's talk about the working culture. It's true that Japanese people are incredibly hardworking, but it comes at a cost. The term karoshi literally means death by overwork. I met a young man in Tokyo who worked 90 hours a week. He looked exhausted, but when I asked him why he didn't quit, he smiled politely and said, "It's not an option." The pressure to perform is so intense, people don't complain. They suppress, they endure. That suppression creates another problem: loneliness. Japan has one of the highest rates of social isolation in the developed world. There are thousands of people, especially men, who completely withdraw from society. They're called hikikomori. Some haven't left their room in 10 years. I spoke to a support worker in Osaka who said that families are often too ashamed to admit it, so they just pretend everything is fine. It gets worse. Elderly people are committing petty crimes just to get arrested because prison offers more comfort and care than their real lives. I met a 78-year-old woman who stole a sandwich so she could spend a night in jail. "I just needed someone to talk to," she whispered. This is not the Japan you see on Instagram. It's quiet, invisible, and it's growing. I've traveled through Japan by train, by bus, even on foot, and something kept happening that I couldn't ignore. The further you get from the big cities, the emptier everything becomes. Streets without people, homes without lights, convenience stores where the only customers are cats. Japan is beautiful, but it's also slowly vanishing. I stayed in a once prosperous town near Akita. The locals call it a Mujinmura, which literally means no human village. Out of 120 houses, only 23 are occupied. The others, locked, boarded up, or completely reclaimed by nature. Wild boars roam the streets now. A woman in her 70s was the youngest person I met there. She told me, "My children left, then the neighbors left, then the bus stopped coming. Now, I talk to the flowers." These aren't isolated cases. More than 8 million homes in Japan are now abandoned, a number that is expected to rise dramatically. These homes, called akiya, are often completely free to take over, yet still no one wants them. Why? Because they're located in places with no doctors, no schools, no supermarkets. You might own a house, but you'd be completely alone. And then there's Tokyo, the city of lights. You'd think it's the opposite of all this rural emptiness, but it has its own darkness. In the famous Shibuya district, I spent a night walking the alleys behind the glowing billboards. What I found wasn't energy. It was exhaustion. People sleeping in manga cafes. Men in suits passed out on the sidewalk. Women rushing from hostess clubs with fake lashes still attached. There's this illusion that Tokyo never sleeps. But the people here are just too tired to dream. I talked to a salaryman who rents a capsule no bigger than a coffin. He works 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, and eats dinner from a vending machine. "This is normal," he said. "I don't complain because everyone else is suffering too." The pressure to succeed in Japan isn't just about ambition. It's about survival. Students are crushed by the exam system. Women are often expected to quit working after marriage. Men are burdened with lifetime job loyalty that's rarely returned. Everyone smiles, everyone bows, but inside, many are breaking. And what about relationships? Here's a shocking truth. Japan's younger generations are giving up on them. Over 60% of unmarried Japanese between 18 and 34 are not in a relationship and don't want one. Some even pay to rent fake girlfriends or boyfriends just to feel something. A young woman I met told me, "It's easier to be alone. I don't have the energy to love someone." The result? One of the world's lowest birth rates. Entire generations are fading before they even begin. In a country obsessed with perfection, it's the imperfections no one wants to talk about. But they're there. In the silence, the isolation, and the cold vending machine meals at midnight. If you walk through Japan as a tourist, it feels spotless. The streets are clean. The trains run perfectly. People are polite. But the truth is, my poverty is here. It's just hidden under layers of shame and silence. One of the most haunting places I visited was Kamagasaki, a neighborhood in Osaka that doesn't even appear on most tourist maps. Locals sometimes pretend it doesn't exist. It is Japan's largest slum. But you won't find garbage piles or beggars on every corner. What you will find are thousands of men, mostly elderly, sleeping on flattened cardboard boxes, standing in lines for free rice, or silently staring at the pavement. Many of them once worked in construction or manufacturing. When the economy shifted, they were left behind. No pensions, no family, no support. I met a man named Hiroshi who had lived in a tiny shared room for 10 years. "We're invisible here," he said. "That's why no one helps us." And it's not just Kamagasaki. In Tokyo, the neighborhood of Sanya tells the same story. Temporary workers, day laborers, people with mental illness, all crowded into rundown buildings with no running water. I stayed nearby for 3 nights and barely saw another foreigner. But I saw people picking through trash cans. I saw a man trying to wash his shirt in a gutter. And still, no one talks about it. Why? Because Japan is a country where shame controls behavior. Asking for help, admitting failure, or showing weakness can feel impossible. People would rather go hungry than be seen as a burden. That is why many of Japan's homeless wear suits, trying to preserve dignity in a system that forgot them. Even more heartbreaking is how poverty affects the elderly. With one of the oldest populations in the world, Japan is now seeing a quiet epidemic of senior isolation. Thousands of people over 70 are living alone, with no visitors for years. Emergency services often find bodies only after neighbors complain about a smell. It's so common that they have a name for it: kodokushi, or lonely death. To make ends meet, some elderly people turn to crime. I'm not exaggerating. Japan has had to build special prison units for senior citizens. Many commit petty theft on purpose. I met a former librarian in her 80s who stole a rice bowl from a convenience store. When asked why, she said, "Prison gives me food, warmth, and people. Outside, I have nothing." How does this happen in one of the richest countries in the world? Because Japan values order and often punishes those who fall outside of it. Poverty here isn't loud. It's quiet, respectable, hidden behind clean clothes and empty homes. No one asks for help. And that's exactly why they need it the most. When I first arrived in Japan, I was enchanted by the quiet. No honking, no shouting. People moved with precision, kept to themselves. But over time, that same silence started to feel heavy. There's a phrase people use here. You live close, but your hearts are far. In Japan, loneliness doesn't always look like solitude. It's everywhere. In the crowded trains where no one speaks, in the cafes filled with people eating alone, in the homes where no one ever visits. I met a man in his 30s who hadn't spoken to another person, really spoken, in almost a year. He's a hikikomori, one of over 1 million Japanese who choose to withdraw completely from society. His parents leave meals by his door. He never goes outside. I asked him why. He answered, "Because outside I have to be someone. In here, I disappear." These aren't just rebellious teenagers. Many hikikomori are adults. Some are even in their 50s and 60s, still living with aging parents. The shame of not fitting in, of not succeeding in school or work, can be so overwhelming that they retreat completely. There's no anger, just silence. And the truth is, Japan doesn't have the cultural tools to deal with this. Mental health is still taboo. Therapy is often seen as weakness. When people are hurting here, they hide it. That's why suicide rates, especially among young people and the elderly, remain painfully high. In Tokyo, I visited a cafe that rents out listening staff. You pay by the hour just to talk to someone. No advice, no judgment, just a human voice. It's both beautiful and heartbreaking that so many people have to buy connection. And then there are the rental families. You can hire actors to play the role of mother, father, or spouse. Some people use it for weddings. Others, just to feel what it's like to be loved. Imagine needing to rent someone to tell you, "I'm proud of you." Imagine needing that so badly. You'd pay for it. As a foreigner, I'll never fully understand what it is like to grow up with these expectations. To be quiet, perfect, and invisible. But I can see the results. A country full of beautiful people, suffering in silence. This isn't a lack of community. It's a lack of emotional permission. And that might be the most painful thing of all. There's a side of Japan that guidebooks won't mention. The kind that makes you stop, tilt your head and say, "Wait, that's real?" Let's talk about JK Cafe, short for Joshikusei, or high school girl cafes. I stumbled upon one by accident in Akihabara. At first glance, it looked innocent. Girls in school uniforms chatting with male customers. But the deeper you look, the darker it gets. Men pay to talk, walk, or just sit next to these underage girls. Technically, nothing illegal happens. But everyone knows what it is. And it is legal because Japanese laws often blur that line between fantasy and exploitation. Then there's the phenomenon of compensated dating, or enjokosai. Teenagers post ads online offering their company, sometimes for money, sometimes for gifts. Many say it's harmless, but I've seen interviews with girls who were 14 or 15 being picked up by men 3 times their age. They call it just business. I call it heartbreaking. Another strange trend? Men dating holograms. No, I'm not joking. There's a device called Gatebox that lets you live with a virtual anime wife. She texts you, welcomes you home, even nags you about your day. One man held a wedding ceremony with his hologram bride. No guests came, except media. And then there are the love hotels. You can rent a room for an hour. Themed rooms, train carriages, hospitals, castles. They're discreet, efficient, and everywhere. Some couples use them. But many customers are lonely men and paid actors. You'd think such a futuristic country would be progressive, but Japan is oddly stuck in time. Gender roles are rigid. LGBTQ+ rights, still a taboo. Even something as simple as mental health remains underground. One woman told me, "Here, if you smile, they won't ask. If you cry, they'll never forget." It's a country full of rules, most of which are never spoken, just expected. I once walked into a bathhouse with a small tattoo. The manager bowed deeply, then asked me to leave. Tattoos are associated with the Yakuza, even if you're just a tourist. That same trip, I was denied an apartment because I'm foreign. Too risky, they said. So yes, Japan is safe, beautiful, kind, but it's also guarded, performative, and emotionally suffocating. I still love Japan, but I love it honestly now, for what it is and what it hides. I know what you're thinking. How can a country so admired, so orderly, so advanced, be so broken beneath the surface? That's the paradox of Japan. It's breathtaking and heartbreaking. You see, Japan doesn't bleed openly. It folds its wounds into polite smiles, perfect packaging, and scheduled silence. It's a society that prizes harmony above all else, even at the cost of its own people as happiness. I met incredible people here. Warm, generous, quietly courageous. From the elderly woman who offered me tea in a village of empty houses, to the young man who whispered through tears, "I haven't talked to anyone in months, thank you for listening." But here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Don't to fall in love with a fantasy. Japan isn't an anime. It's not a vending machine of experiences. It's not just temples and trains. It's a living, breathing place, full of contradictions, full of people who need space to breathe, to speak, to stop being perfect. So if you come here, come with open eyes, respect the culture, but see it fully. Support the communities that need help, talk to the silent, and never assume that beauty means peace. Because behind the clean streets and cherry blossoms, there's a quiet crisis unfolding, and if no one talks about it, nothing changes. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, your experiences, or just a kind word for someone out there who might be feeling alone, in Japan or anywhere. This isn't just a video. This is a conversation we all need to have. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and remember, even in the quietest places, someone needs to be heard.